Good evening. I'm Katie Lee-Koven, Executive Director and Chief Curator of the Nora Eccles Harrison Museum of Art at Utah State University. And I am joined this evening by Amy MacDonald, co-producer and director of the beloved community project film that you will see here shortly, and an incredible group of leaders, educators, and storytellers here in Utah who have dedicated their lives to making a positive impact on their communities stemmed from personal experiences of racism and injustice. Before we begin, I want to thank our supporters: Utah Division of Arts and Museums, Salt Lake Community College, Brolly Arts, the National Endowment for Humanities, and the Utah Humanities. Thank you for helping to make this possible. I want to start by acknowledging that as a white female in a position of leadership and privilege, I am listening, learning, and wanting to create space for dialogue for those who deserve for their art and their voices to be seen and heard, which is why I asked Amy and Marian Howe-Taylor if they would partner with me for this discussion. I believe that we all have a duty to make our country and our world a better place, and we hope that events such as this will encourage you to consider what you can do in your community. We are Facebook live streaming this event, so hello to everyone on Facebook. And when we get to the discussion portion with our guest speakers, you can enter your questions in the comments on Facebook. And if you're joining on Zoom, you can enter any questions in the chat or Q&A function, and I will be monitoring those. Those buttons are at the bottom of your Zoom screen. If you are new to Zoom, you can hover your mouse in the bottom area of Zoom and you'll find the chat and Q&A buttons. Also, in the top right corner of your Zoom screen, there are different view options. There's a gallery view or a speaker view. And later this evening, you may want to change when it's time to hear from our speakers to speaker view or gallery view, depending on your preference. I will begin by sharing with you what NEHMA is doing to try to walk the walk as an organization committed to spurring dialogue, critical thinking, and educating about issues that are relevant to our audience, the people that we serve. We must be responsive, even proactive, in our collecting, exhibition, and programming practices, even correcting historical practices that do not serve us today. Tonight, I ask that you listen not only to what we are speaking about, but how the message is being conveyed through visual art, film, and storytelling. If we are going to be effective as citizens, institutions, and collectively as a country in making positive societal change, we must be creative because change is not a linear process. So with that, I would like to take you to our website and introduce you to an exhibition that we have on view now, curated directly in response to the riots and protest and the killing in the wake of George Floyd. So the exhibition, titled African American Art, Social Justice, and Identity, works by Black artists in the NEHMA Collection. I'm going to introduce you to the exhibition with a quick virtual tour. And part of the reason I'm doing this is for you to know that in this time of COVID, you can still visit the museum and you can still come back after this event tonight and learn more about these artworks. Tonight, I'm only going to speak about two of them. So I just want to kind of show you how it works. And while we're here in the museum, the other exhibition on our main floor is titled Women, Surrealism, and Abstraction. All right, so I'm going to take you out of that, and we're just going to focus on we're going to start with this piece by Ramar Bearden. I also just want to mention that in the time that I have been at the museum, we have been more intentional to acquire artworks by people of color and women. And we have a lot of work to do, but we are committed to being more inclusive and equitable in all of our work. And this is just one example of that. So Ramar Bearden's Quilting Time from 1981. Bearden is an extremely important American artist of the 20th century whose work focused on African-American life and culture in the context of themes that were universal to Americans. Born in Charlotte, North Carolina, but growing up in New York City, his early paintings depicted the American South, visiting family there frequently. He studied predominantly European traditions in painting and art, but he created a unique style that was a departure from mainstream art genres such as abstraction and cubism in the 20th century. I present this work because it is in some ways at the heart of this evening's event, which is that in order for Blacks in this country to be viewed as equal under the law and equal in all eyes, we must see each other as people, as Americans, as a mother, a father, a daughter, a son. Bearden wanted all people to understand his people and to know that they were hardworking Americans who quilted in their homes and worked in factories and contributed to American society. I am from South Carolina, and I have witnessed racism many, many times. And inequity can be seen if you walk down certain streets or drive through certain neighborhoods. In Utah, with 2% of the population being African American, white Utahns, especially in rural areas, may not fully understand the extent to which inequity is still pervasive today. But you will see that even as a small minority in Utah, racism still exists. The second piece I'd like to share with you is a broadside by Talita Long, of Angela Davis, when she was arrested by the FBI on October 13th, 1970. This broadside, which is a broadside is a periodical that often took the place of a newspaper. It may be a political pamphlet, a poetry book, ballad sheets, but they were intended to be for specialized audiences or groups. And they mostly died out with newspapers having more circulation. But they're considered important ephemera reflecting what was happening at a particular time. And Broadside Press, which is who printed and published this piece, was founded by Dudley Randall in the 1960s, and his vision for the press was to provide literature, art, and poetry to African Americans made by African Americans. So this print made in 1970 of Angela Davis, in small print at the bottom, you may or may not be able to read it. It says 50 cents, all receipts from sale of this broadside will be donated to the Free Angela Davis Defense Fund. And I learned from Marian Howe-Taylor, one of our guest speakers, that many artists use Angela's image to depict the Black Power movement, using her image without her permission and without benefiting her. So really appropriating her image for their own use. And Marian suspects that this is one of the few examples of her image being used to directly benefit her and her cause. And if you don't know who Angela Davis is, she is an activist, scholar, and writer who advocates for the oppressed. She was on the FBI's most wanted list in the months leading up to her arrest. In 1972, when her trial began, it drew international attention because of the weakness of the prosecution's case and the obvious political nature of the proceedings. And in June of 1972, she was acquitted of all charges. After leaving the criminal justice system, she returned to teaching and writing, was a professor at University of California, Santa Cruz until retiring in 2008. And though she's no longer a member of the Communist Party, which she was during the 70s when she was arrested, Davis continues to be active in politics, most notably issues regarding race, the criminal justice system, and women's rights. Here in black and white, the confidence of her gaze is countered by the fracture radiating from her head, as if this shift from activist and leader to felon. At this particular moment when this piece was made, she was incarcerated. Shattered her image. As mentioned, this piece, it was created while she was incarcerated. And so it's intended to sort of convey that sense of angst about her and concerns about her and what was happening in this country. So it speaks to a specific time in our history that we must continue to learn from, and a pivotal moment in Davis's life as a young Black woman in America. So this is just an introduction to our museum and this exhibition, and you can revisit the website and learn about other works that we have on view as well. I'd like to now shift from visual art to film, and I am so thrilled to be premiering the Beloved Community Project film, and I'd like to introduce first Amy MacDonald. She is the founder and director of Brolly Arts. The term Brolly is British slang for umbrella, an appropriate name for an organization that has strived for inclusion since its inception in 1995. Brolly Arts is dedicated to creating meaningful art and vibrant communities through artistic and civic collaboration and experimentation. As a nonprofit umbrella arts organization, Brolly Arts is committing to increasing the opportunities and impacts of artists and arts organizations in Salt Lake City and Utah. Amy believes that art, culture, and humanities are the most non-threatening means we have to bring people together around important issues and ideas to lay the groundwork for change. They develop artistic, civic, and corporate partnerships to increase awareness and change around major issues of the day. And through these efforts, Brolly Arts has created, sponsored, and supported numerous projects, serving over 650 artists and engaged in many strategic partnerships. As Nancy Boskoff, former executive director of the Salt Lake Arts Council, says, Brolly Arts has, from its inception, been an agent of change and community development through the arts. Every project undertaken has moved the arts community to work together and creatively addressed a number of issues, both local and global. And since 1995, they've addressed these issues such as the environment, human rights, artistic and civic collaborations, and community engagement. Almost 7 years ago, MacDonald began working with Marian Howe-Taylor on Black Social Change Utah. That project thus far has several iterations, ranging from a presentation, a multidisciplinary performance, documentary, discussion, and more. So this journey has now led us to the creation and production of the Beloved Community Project documentary film. With the murder of George Floyd and an expanded national consciousness, this project is timely and creatively asks us all what we can do for change. Amy also founded MacDonald Designs to apply her passions and consulting for art, design, and the environment to create placemaking projects addressing relevant community topics and issues and ideas. She's a longtime educator, teaching kindergarten through master's degree students about art, creative placemaking, and community development. Amy, I will now turn it over to you.
Thank you, Katie, for such a warm introduction. And thank you, the NEHMA staff and board, for hosting us tonight. And a heartfelt thank you to all of our extraordinary social change agents and film participants that are joining us tonight for a conversation after the film screening. Before we screen the film, I'd like to give you some background and context to the Beloved Community Project. So it was about 2013 when I met Marian Howe-Taylor, to my good fortune. She was at the time working at Salt Lake Community College and working towards her master's degree at Westminster College in the master's degree in community leadership. And she was specializing in the arts, culture, and community track. She was a student of mine because that was the course I was teaching at Westminster. And she immediately demonstrated her rock star qualities and get her done type of positive attitude with strength and a sense of humor and grace. We became friends, and Marian asked me to be her graduate thesis supervisor. So we had met a number of times, and one day we were meeting at a coffee shop, and I walked in, and Marian's strong, vivacious personality seemed sad or deflated, just not herself. And I went to her and I said, Marian, what's happened? Something's wrong. And she shared with me significant acts of discrimination she had suffered that week. And she looked at me with these beautiful, tired eyes, and she asked, how do you maintain hope in the face of adversity over and over and over again? And that was the moment that we began Black Social Change Utah. Marian and I have been at it for almost 7 years. We have created a documentary, a multidisciplinary performance with all kinds of mediums. We've had panel discussions, et cetera, et cetera. And as Katie so aptly described, now in this time of an expanded consciousness and with the advent of George Floyd's death, it just so happened that Salt Lake Community College and Brolly Arts joined together so that Marian and I could move ahead and make the Beloved Community Project. We are so thrilled to screen it tonight. And it sort of is a culmination of much of our work that you will see in the film, as well as an expression of what currently is going on in Utah and beyond. And so that I won't give anything away, I think it's time to screen the film, and Katie will give us the technical directions as how to do it. And we'll see you back here after the movie for a conversation with all these wonderful change makers. We'll see you in a little bit. I hope you enjoy the film.
You must want and hope for a better world and be willing to sacrifice for it.
In the words of Dr. King, the Beloved Community is a global vision in which all people can share in the wealth of the earth. King wrote,
Let us fight passionately and unrelentingly for the goals of justice and freedom. Let's be sure that our hands are clean in the struggle. Let us never fight with falsehood and violence and hate and malice, but always fight with love, so that when the day comes that the walls of segregation have completely crumbled in Montgomery, that we will be able to live with people as our brothers and sisters.
Now it's the fall 2020, and the past few months have been the perfect storm.
This is not a riot. This is an uprising.
Hope is part of nonviolent protest.
Seeing videos again of people who are of a darker complexion, people that have my complexion, have no chance of seeing the next day.
You must keep hope alive.
It doesn't matter how much you give, it's just the fact of you giving something.
You gotta not only speak out, but you gotta step out.
This type of protest comes in the form of education, civic engagement, mentorship, activism, voting, and loving kindness.
You must find ways to engage with the values of the beloved community.
Welcome back, everybody. No matter how many times I watch this film, I cry, and Barbara and I always have a little, because we always shed a few tears when we're watching. It is my extreme pleasure and honor to introduce to all of you tonight these extraordinary social change makers who have worked and continue to work every single day to leave the world a better place than the way they found it. I will begin, we have a lot to talk about, so I'll begin by introducing everyone, and we welcome your questions, and let's begin. The first person I'd love to introduce, who is my partner in crime in all of this, my friend and my sister. Oh dear, I'm gonna cry. Mrs. Marian D. Howe-Taylor. Marian is currently the manager of special projects at the Salt Lake Community College in the School of Art, Communication, and Media. Marian is also the co-producer and director with me of Black Social Change Utah and the Beloved Community Project. And I always say that Marian moves mountains. She's a woman that gets her done. So, Marian.
I can't breathe. My call to action came in the fall of academic year 1974-75 when I was a freshman in high school. And I was blessed. My parents had us in private school, but I still had to come back to the city. And Judge Arthur Garrity had ruled that it was time for Boston to desegregate. And they did so via busing Black kids into a predominantly white section of Boston, and it didn't go well, and riots ensued. And everything shut down, all the transportation. And so Gwen Jefferson sent her nephew Buddy to pick up her son Mark and me in Arlington Heights. But when we got back to the city, mounted police, National Guardsmen, all had basically cordoned off where we would turn to go home and forced us to the expressway, and we couldn't get out. But we got into Orchard Park where the riot was the heaviest, and Buddy parked the car in Orchard Park Federation's neighborhood house, got inside, and there my father was, along with Gwen, trying to calm the city. And next thing I know, my father gives me one of the 2 German Shepherds we had at the time, and he runs out the door because a white businessman trying to leave the city, like the windows smashed in. By the time my father got to him, he was a blood running down his face, unconscious, and the crowd of rioters had pushed an abandoned car up against this one, threw gasoline on it, set it on fire, and I'm thinking, oh my God, my father's gonna die trying to save this white man who probably calls us nigger. So I was just stunned. My father put him in a fireman's hold over his shoulder, and the smoke is billowing, and I'm thinking my father's gone. But he comes out of the smoke, and our dog Major, off leash, sort of doing crowd control, and took the brunt of a hit meant from my father. And he was really never the same. And maybe I wasn't either. I realized then that just like that black dog, I'm wearing black skin and I'm not safe either. For months, I think I woke up in a panic and snuck in live, and it wasn't just a nightmare. When I got to school, the Monday following the riots, Sister Mary Juliana took one look at connecting to my history, because this was not the first time people of color had encountered this kind of racism. And I found a book of poetry edited by Langston Hughes. And in that book, I found a poem that resonated with me and stayed with me all of my life. Naomi Long Madgett wrote a poem called Midway. And I'll just give you a little bit of it. I have come this far to freedom, and I won't turn back. I'm climbing to the highway from my old dirt track. I'm coming and I'm going and I'm stretching and I'm growing, and I'll reap what I've been sowing, or my skin's not black. I have prayed and slaved and waited, and yes, I have sung my song. You've lashed me and you've treated me and you've everything but freed me. But in time, you'll know you need me. And it goes on. And so I'm going to turn it back to Amy.
Thank you, Marian. The next person I am thrilled to introduce is Dr. Jackie Thompson. Jackie is a retired Director of Educational Equity at the Davis School District. She's a board member of the Utah National Association of Multicultural Education, and she is a diversity lecturer and speaker. Jackie?
I can't breathe. I was born in Nashville, Tennessee, to Tech Sergeant David and Margie Royston. I am the oldest of 9 children. I am proud to be a part of a military family. We traveled to San Francisco, Michigan, Japan, Massachusetts, and my family retired in Sacramento. I always considered myself to be a part of the human family. My call to action came when I was 16 years old. I was faced directly with racism. My family went on a vacation, first to Memphis, Tennessee, to visit my father's family, and then to Kosciuszko, Mississippi, to visit my mother's family. Oh, we were having a great time. My Uncle Michael, who was 16 years old, the same age I was at the time, invited me to ride with him to make a delivery to an elderly white woman's home. When we arrived at her home, Uncle Michael knocked on the door. The lady opened the door and looked out at us and said, "Would y'all please come around to the back door?" Uncle Michael looked at her and said, "No, ma'am, we are not going to the back door today." We got back in his truck and left. I felt like Uncle Michael was standing up inside himself and saying, "I too sing America." After I got over the shock and hurt of us being treated like second-class citizens and abiding by Jim Crow laws, I thought to myself, racism is alive and well. I was glad that we did not go to the back door. I knew then that education is the key to our better future, and I was committed to becoming a teacher. This poem by Langston Hughes, "I Too Sing America," it touches my heart on a regular basis. I too sing America. I am the darker brother. They send me to eat in the kitchen when company comes, but I laugh and I eat well and grow strong. Tomorrow, I'll sit at the table when company comes. Nobody dare say to me, "Sit in the kitchen then." Besides, they'll see how beautiful I am and be ashamed. I too am America. The words of this beautiful poem were recited at President Barack Obama's first inauguration in 2009. Pastor Davis, Miss Barbara Beard White, and myself, along with several Utahns, attended this amazing, beautiful event of our first African-American president. We too sing America. Thank you.
Thank you, Jackie.
You're welcome.
Next person I would like to introduce is Reverend Dr. Franz Davis. He is a retired pastor emeritus for Calvary Baptist Church in Salt Lake City. Pastor Davis is a civil rights leader. He is a retired faculty emeritus to the University of Utah. He's the first Black appointed to the Utah State Board of Regents overseeing higher education. He is the former chaplain, University of Utah football team, and he is the author of 3 books on Utah Black history and 1 autobiography. But Pastor Davis, I think the best introduction comes from somebody I'd like to quote to introduce you. I'm quoting Salt Lake Community College's Provost, Dr. Clifton Sanders, who said, "Wherever Pastor Franz Davis is, the beloved community happens." Pastor Davis. Hang on, Pastor Davis, we've got to unmute you. Just a second. Katie, can you unmute?
Actually, it's not letting me unmute.
There we go. Okay, Pastor Davis.
Great, thank you.
Like George Floyd, I can't breathe. And that's been the history of my own life for these many years. I was born in Georgia during the days of separate but equal, grew up there attending those all African-American schools separated by race. And by the way, there were only 2 groups of people in America in those days. Either you were light-skinned enough to be considered white, or you were dark-skinned enough to be considered colored. And because we were considered colored, we went to those schools that were secondhand, if you will. We had secondhand buildings, we used secondhand books, we rode secondhand buses, everything that we had, except the teachers were quality. And they were quality, although they had graduated from schools that were not certified schools, schools that were not accredited. And I went to those schools. And in 1963, I was traveling from New Jersey back to Georgia for my last year of school. And I happened in Washington, D.C. at the very time that Dr. Martin Luther King was there to lead the March on Washington and deliver the I Have a Dream speech. That sparked my move into action. But it wasn't until 1965 that I really got a chance to put it into action. When I was a student at a college called Tuskegee, started by Booker T. Washington and popularized by George Washington Carver's creation and use of the peanut. And there, we decided that we were going to help the citizens of Selma, Alabama, to be able to register so that they could vote. We went as students and we participated, and that for me was my call to render service, to make positive change, to do what I could. And I remember the poem, as others have quoted from Langston Hughes, that Langston Hughes wrote entitled Mother to Son. Well, son, life for me ain't been no crystal stair. It's had tacks in it and splinters and boards torn up and places on the floor bare. I remembered that poem and got busy helping the citizens to march from 40 miles from Selma to Montgomery. John Lewis was a part, one of the leaders of the march. Martin Luther King was another one of the leaders. There was Harry Belafonte, Mahalia Jackson, James Baldwin, all kinds of positive role models were there who taught us. But all the time, as the poem would continue, I's been a climbing on and turning corners and reaching landings and sometimes going where there ain't been no dark, where there ain't been no light. So don't you turn back now. And the word boy is inserted but I choose not to use it. Don't you turn back, because you finds it kind of hard. Don't you turn back now, for life for me ain't been no crystal stair. And that for me was when I caught my breath and was able to breathe to help make a change for the whole world. I came to Salt Lake in 1972 and found Salt Lake's behind the times and had to work on fair housing and other issues here in Salt Lake. And I continue even until now to do what I can to remind people that no lives matter as long as Black lives do not matter. Thank you.
Thank you, Pastor Davis. Very beautiful. Next person I would like to introduce is Mrs. Barbara Beard White. Barbara is a retired elementary school principal from the Davis School District. Barbara spent over 21 years in the classroom as a teacher and over 11 years as a Davis District Administrator. Barbara.
Thank you. I can't breathe. I was born by a river in a little tent, and just like that old river, I've been a-running ever since. It's been a long time coming, but I know change gonna come. Oh, yes, it will. I go to the movie and I go downtown. Those folks keep telling me that I can't stand around. It's been a long time coming, but I know change gonna come. Oh, yes, it will. Then I go to my brother and I say, brother, help me please. But he winds up knocking me back down on my knees. It's been too hard a living, but I'm afraid to die. And I don't know what's up there. Yes, I do. Beyond the sky. It's been a long time coming, but I know change gonna come. Oh, yes, it will. And my last verse. There've been times that I felt I couldn't last for long. But now I know I'm able to carry on. It's been a long time coming, but I know change gonna come. Oh, yes, it will. My call to action was when, from kindergarten to second grade, I had all Black teachers who loved me and helped me. Then my mom's 5 of us we went to integrated schools, but I was the only one who left my community, got on a bus, and went to Westport Elementary for 3rd grade. Nobody looked like me. I don't even think that there was no other Black children in that school. And like I said before, if I wasn't pretty or smart, you were shunned. And I felt so alone that my call to action is I'm going to grow up and become a teacher and make sure that every child who knocked my door will never feel like I felt when I went to 3rd grade at integrated school. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Barbara. That was absolutely beautiful.
Thank you.
Our next social change agent I'd love to introduce is Adrian Scott Ellis. Adrian is an elementary school educator at the Davis School District. She is also a student and school support team member and a member of the Utah Cultural Alliance. Adrian?
I can't breathe, but I know a change is gonna come. And that change came in the form of this beautiful Black educator that was in the elementary school that I attended. I went to Crestview Elementary, elementary school that is part of the Davis School District. I was called to action the day as a kindergartner. I was pushed to the ground and spat upon and called a dirty nigger. And I had to pick myself up off of that sidewalk. And ever since that day, I had to pick myself up because the system was determined to keep me down. Uninspired curriculum, nothing that was taught was relevant to who I was. But things changed when I saw what I could aspire to, and that was Mrs. Barbara Beard there, now Mrs. Barbara Beard White, who, with her confidence, her charisma, her poise, her intelligence, and just her mere presence inspired me, gave me strength to persevere. In the video, I equated my experience like stepping into the boxing ring. I felt I had at least someone that was in my corner to help me through this. So I knew I did not want another child to feel as though they had to pick themselves up. I wanted them to know that there was somebody in their corner. So I graduated, and that was my inspiration. I kept my eye on the prize, and I made sure I graduated, that I attended Utah State University, and I returned to Davis School District so I could ensure that not another student in this district would have that same experience.
I want to tie that. May I tie the whole story up, please?
Oh, absolutely, Barbara, please.
Crestview Elementary was my first school assignment. And I was one of 5 Blacks in the whole school and the only Black teacher. And I taught 1st grade. And there was a young lady who was a 1st grader, but not in my class. But this beautiful Adrian Scott Ellis, awesome. She was a 3rd grader. I never taught her. So, but I would speak to her, but I just never taught her. And you forwarded 15 years, and I started teaching in 77. You forwarded 15 years, and when we were at that multicultural meeting, and I was working on my administrative certificate, and so I kept watching the clock because I had to leave at 4 o'clock. But everybody was sitting around telling their stories. And I said, we all have a story to tell. Remember, 15 years later from my first 77 assignment. And then at that particular meeting, everyone was a person of color except for one little guy, and he was like a student teacher, a student teacher guy. Well, anyway, this cute little cutie was sitting to the right of me, and I said, we all have a story to tell. And everybody told their story. And then the room got quiet, and then this cutie pie next to me said, I have a story to tell. So we all looked her way, and tears are just rolling down her eyes. And so I said, okay. And so she said, when I was in 3rd grade at Crestview Elementary, I didn't know what I was going to be when I grew up. I thought I had to go to Africa to get a husband. And she's still just crying, and I'm kind of looking at her. And then she said, Mrs. Beard, you walked through that door. And I fixed my eyes on you. And because of you, I'm a teacher today, 15 years later. So that goes to, you don't know who's watching. So make sure you are a good representative for whomever group you are with, Black, white, and different. You've got to bring your best. And so I thanked that little cutie, and we all just cried, and there's my girl. And so that ties up the story. Thank you.
Thank you.
Such a beautiful, beautiful way. Thank you, Adrian and Barbara. I have one last person I'd like to introduce, and that's Tashelle Wright. And Tashelle is a PhD candidate in public health at Merced, California, and she's also a McNair program coordinator at Westminster College in Salt Lake. Tashelle.
I can't breathe. My call to action is inspired by the women in this group. As a single mom, I started my college journey at Salt Lake Community College in 2011 and was blessed to have met Ms. Marian Howe-Taylor. From the day we met in 2011, she has been my mentor, my cheerleader, my advocate, and my inspiration. She inspired me to aspire higher and always been one of my greatest supporters. Ms. Marian is a phenomenal inspiration. Dr. Brenda Burrell is a phenomenal inspiration. Dr. Jackie Thompson is a phenomenal inspiration. Miss Daisy Eason is a phenomenal inspiration. Miss Barbara is a phenomenal inspiration. Miss Adrian is a phenomenal inspiration. And Miss Amy is a phenomenal inspiration. Folks like me need women like these in our lives, especially in a place like Utah. We need to see ourselves in grade school and in higher education. We need to see ourselves reflected and see how we are capable of anything and everything. Because of folks like these and other Black storytellers, part of this Black social change movement, who have shared their extraordinary journeys, I now know that I need and want to pay it forward and create spaces and places for Black individuals, especially youth, to feel safe and find the resources they need to live their safest, healthiest lives and obtain any sort of education they desire. As a PhD candidate, my research focuses on health disparities in Black and Latinx communities. And I look forward to moving back to Utah to share all that I've learned, because this is where I was born and raised. I'm excited to bring what I have learned about health and wellness and share this information and resources with community members, many of whom are folks that are often forgotten or dismissed in our healthcare systems. At a community level, my son and I continue to participate in we did participate in marches when they were happening, rallies, and Black Lives Matter events to show support for Black lives and the future generation who have their own stories to share. Having a son who identifies as Black is a blessing, but I would be lying if I said I was not scared for him every day living in this world. The Black social change movement and beloved community is not only needed, it is necessary and gives me peace of mind as a Black mother, as a Black woman, as a Black daughter, as a Black sister, and as a Black advocate. And to close, and I would like to share a quote from the late Chadwick Boseman: "The struggles along the way are only meant to shape you for your purpose."
Thank you, Tashelle. So you can see these are all extraordinary change makers this fine evening. Katie, do we have questions or should we continue on with our conversation?
There is one question, but why don't you ask a couple before we switch back to it?
Okay, perfect. Okay, I'm going to ask these change makers, given their life's work, from their viewpoint right now, how they see things, how are things now? What do you see? Are things better, worse, same? What do you see still needs to happen? And I'm going to first direct that to Jackie.
Thank you, Miss Amy. Miss Amy, I heard it said so much through the film that we must keep hope alive. The young people said that. And then Miss Adrian Scott Ellis, she reiterated, we must keep our eyes on the prize. It has been the young people that have been at the forefront of the civil rights movement throughout our lives. You heard Dr. Reverend France Davis talk about marching, and you heard Miss Barbara Beard, she also was at that march on Washington. And today, as we see our students and our young people of all races walking together in peaceful protest, and they're saying, no justice, no peace. I want to give the play on those words. No justice, N-O, justice, N-O, peace. Let's focus on K-N-O-W, no justice, K-N-O-W, no peace. I've heard that said. And so today I'm excited about some things I'm seeing happening around our community. Davis School District Equity Department just expanded that department and included recently hiring of 2 African-American females, Miss Corey Long and Bianca Mittendorf. They're helping with training. The kindergarten through 12th grade Martin Luther King Jr. contest is going on in Davis School District right now, and Marian highlighted some of those students in the film. Statewide training is taking place from the governor's office to police officers to communities and districts. We trained all the elementary teachers and secondary teachers were also trained in Murray School District in implicit bias and culturally competent, along with other school districts received training. Davis, Granite, Jordan, they've done their trainings. We also had an opportunity to train the after-school in the after-school conference this week, and with Adrian Andrews, the Ogden Weaver Head Start program. Weber State University had a panel, and this panel presented to pre-service teachers, and they said, we're going to open it up to all teachers, all employees in Weber District. Today, Hill Air Force Base had the Women's Symposium, and Miss Denise Elbert had a diverse panel of women, including Miss Emma Houston, also including Adrian Andrews, and it was just amazing to see all those that were represented. I want to share with you that I'm also encouraged because Michelle Loveday, she is the director now of the K-12 RISE Academy, where African-American students and multiracial students are learning the contributions of African-American history every Thursday night from 6:30 to 8 p.m. And then I want to invite you to participate with us with our Utah NEHMA, National Association for Multicultural Education, as this committee met this afternoon looking for more culturally competent training. And so if you go to utahname.org, I want to commend Miss Adrian Scott Ellis for all the work that she does around her wax museum and historical figures at Doxey Elementary School. But she's also doing something very exciting, and I'll leave that for her to share with you. But I am seeing that our educators, that our community, that our youth are doing great things. And finally, the youth in Davis County had a peace rally in Farmington, where 9-year-olds all the way up through 12th grade were talking about how they felt. And they too said, I can't breathe. But then they talked about what they would do and what their call for action would be. I say, let us keep our eyes on the prize and keep hope alive. Thank you for allowing me to share that.
Thank you, Jackie.
You're welcome.
Pastor Davis, I think I'd like to pose that question to you. How do you see things now through your life as a change maker?
During the 1940s and 50s, things were going backwards. We were separate, but so-called equal. Then the Supreme Court in the Brown versus Board of Education decision changed the law so that separate but equal was inherently unequal. And we began to move forward. We moved forward until the middle 1970s. And in the middle 1970s, we elected representatives who were determined to turn the clock backwards. We are still going backwards, and that's why we need to urge everybody to go to the polls, register, and vote so that we can make the kind of changes that we need to make.
Thank you. Katie?
Yes, we have a question. In Utah, we certainly need more teachers of color in schools across the state. How can we inspire and support more young people of color to become teachers?
Well, I think the first thing is that we've got to make sure that everybody knows the history of African-American education and its teachers. And if we learn that history, then we can find the role models, as Adrian was talking about Barbara as a role model. But when people don't see themselves, then they don't they're not energized to go in that direction. So we've got to recruit and hire more persons of African-American descent.
And I wanted to say, I know that recruitment is now starting to take place not only in state, but out of state. We've encouraged districts to go to historical Black colleges, to go to historical Hispanic Latino colleges, to go to where the teachers of color are and to bring them back in addition to helping to grow our own in the state of Utah as well. And we've got to recruit at every level.
If I may interject, I've been retired for 11 years. I don't think the problem is there aren't qualified teachers of color available. I believe the problem is they just don't want to hire them. We are not being hired. We are being looked at, maybe go to the screening, but then our files are tossed in the wastebasket. So I do not believe that there is a shortage of the pool to pull from qualified teachers of color. It's just that they do not seem to want to hire us.
Oh, I want to just add also, people like Tashelle have to go and get their education and then be willing to come back as well. Unfortunately, far too many of our young people get educated here and then they leave because nobody, as Barbara indicated, will hire them. But if they're willing to go and get their advanced degrees and come back, then maybe we can find a place for them.
And Pastor, I agree with you because we have 2 daughters, and they are educators in Baltimore, Maryland. That's an example.
Right.
Yeah, and I thought I would add from my perspective, was inspired to get a PhD and teach because of my first Black professor, which was Dr. Clifton Sanders, who was featured in the film. He was the first Black teacher, professor I had ever had in Utah. And so his inspiration and his love and passion for teaching is what really made me aware of, okay, this is something I can see myself doing. And then to add to that, I had the guidance of Ms. Marian Howe-Taylor from the administrative side to really help me. So we really need people like us in these systems, in these spaces, so that we can lift each other up. And that's what everyone in this group have lifted up many, many more than just the few of us represented today.
Great. And I wanted to say too that Ms. Barbara Beard White is absolutely right. And that is why we're now looking at the future leaders of color in Davis, which Ms. Adrienne Scott is a member of. And we're looking at teachers and administrators. We want to see that go all the way up into the superintendency. So we want to have it at all levels, because change has to come. But we have to be at the table. It was Shirley Chisholm that says, if you don't have a place at the table, bring a folding chair. We want a place at that table. We want a place at that table, at all the tables, to make a difference.
Katie, you said there was one other question?
And I just wanted to also acknowledge that a number of you as educators and administrators are saying that there's still discrimination today in hiring, which is unconscionable. I mean, it is you hear that it exists, but you are saying it, and not just one of you are saying it. A number of you are saying it. And that is just unreal to me. I mean, the fact that that exists. So Jackie, what you were saying about the initiatives in Davis County, I would be wonderful. I wish we could hear that that was happening in every school district and in every county.
Mm-hmm.
We've also had one African-American college president in the history of colleges in the state. And currently there are none. Very few administrators. Clifton Sanders and others are in the college level. So we've got to get them there too.
We've got to get them there too. And as we're looking at future leaders of color, we're looking at African American, Pacific Islander, American Indian. We're looking at
there's a comment actually from a friend, Darren Perry. He's running for Congress in the 1st District, former chairman of the Northwestern Shoshone Tribe. He joined us. He just said, thank you for being such a strong and powerful voice for change. You all inspire me to be better.
While we're waiting for Marian, hopefully the sound to work, Adrienne, I wanted to ask you to share what you shared earlier about what you're doing now.
Yes, I would love to take this opportunity to share. I just want to give a little background information on how this came to be. So as you know, in March with the death of George Floyd, I know within myself, serious trauma was triggered within me, and I was in a serious state of anguish. I needed a way to have an outlet and struggled with what can I do to truly make a difference. And the idea of starting a community garden popped in my head. And so I talked to a couple of other individuals and said, what do you think about this idea? If we can have a community garden, so it becomes a vehicle in which diverse people can come together and have a truthful conversation about the issues that are going on in our society. And most people responded very positively and was like, this is a great idea, Adrienne, you should do it. And I went to Sunset City and asked them if I could use a piece of land that's right next to the city building. And they said yes. And so the ball started rolling, talked to the local nurseries. They donated plants, told the community, I need your help with this. But the idea is for us to come together, work together to be able to produce this food for the community that we're all, you know, kind of fearful of where our next meal is going to come from. And we can start to really talk truthfully about racism. I was overwhelmed with the response. We got this garden going. Vegetables were sprouting out left and right, and it's like, okay, now what do I do with all of these vegetables? And I put them in baskets, and I called them designer baskets, and then I delivered them to people that I know that were in need. And the response that I received upon giving them those baskets was tremendous. I was providing food, but yet I was the one who was being fed. And the dialogue that we were having in that garden, we used the analogy of our plants as we struggled to pull out those weeds. We talked about racism and how racism is choking the life out of our children, and that some of those roots of those weeds are deep. And it took a lot of effort to get those roots out. And that's what we talked about as far as society. Those roots are deep, and it's going to take a lot to get that racism out. And then we talked about some of those weeds, just they looked like it was something serious because they were long and leggy, but once you started pulling, they came right out. There wasn't that much effort. And we talked about certain situations within our society that's the way it is. You think it's something serious, but a simple thing as a conversation could possibly eliminate it. And so I was so amazed with the response, I decided, you know, I'm going to make this a legitimate thing. And so I applied, and I applied to make this a true nonprofit organization. So I just recently received my certification and tax ID number, but it has a potential to really becoming a networking system, because we talked about the fact that we are not able to get children of color into the educational field. If we have mentors, Jackie was my mentor when I was with the REACH training, and I don't think I could have done that without her support. So we've got to build a community where we support one another and that we are dealing with the trauma that is created with dealing with racism on a day-to-day basis. So when you get knocked down, you have to have a support team to pick you back up and put you back in that fight. We need to teach our kids the skills in which to deal with racism, to be able to set goals early in life, and like Harriet Tubman, to strive for that goal. You are not going to let the ill treatment, any interference, stop you from reaching that goal. And teach these kids about the determination and perseverance of our previous heroes. Because I know when I was going to school, I felt like, how am I going to do this? You know, every day I'm dealing with something else. But when I was taught about Frederick Douglass and Harriet Tubman and, you know, Ida B. Wells, I was hey, compared to what they had to deal with, I can deal with these children here at Crestview Elementary, and I'm going to achieve my dreams. So we've got to be able to start doing that with our youth today. give them the skills to be successful, give them the motivation to reach back and pull someone else up. Because if we all do something small, it's going to add up to something big.
Thank you, Amy. That's wonderful. I'm afraid our evening is running away with us.
I'm sorry.
No, we just have so much to talk about. And we wanted to also talk about how art makes change, but we're kind of running out of time. And I think just the special evening that we've had, where we have visual art, we have storytelling, we have film, we have music, we have dancers. And I think we've offered so many art mediums as a way to reach people. If one thing doesn't resonate with you, something else will. And so that we can tell our stories, we can be heard, and we can have that conversation to create change. Marian, I don't know if your sound is working. Are you working? Can you unmute?
Am I unmuted now?
Yes, you're gorgeous.
Okay, very good.
Marian, because we are running out of time, there's something very special that you were going to help conclude our evening with. And I'd like to turn that to you, because you are such a change maker and you can draw upon so many different experiences and stories. I invite you to do that.
Okay, I'm going to share a quick one. When I was a child, I had the great fortune to meet people like Marian Anderson in the home of one of my godmothers, Afrika, her father, Roland Hayes, who's one of the first concert singers in the country. And then also at my church, 12th Baptist, during the 60s, Coretta Scott King would come back to Boston. She had been a student at Boston Conservatory where she met Martin, and she would come and give concerts. She had a beautiful soprano voice, and she would perform at Jordan Hall, and then she would perform at our church. And so I got to hear her, both women, sing a song made popular by the play South Pacific. And the song is called "You've Got to Be Carefully Taught." And the words are, you've got to be carefully taught to hate and fear. You've got to be taught from year to year. You've got to be carefully taught. You've got to be taught to be afraid of people whose eyes are oddly made and people whose skin is a different shade. You've got to be carefully taught. You've got to be taught before it's too late, before you are 6 or 7 or 8, to hate all the people your relatives hate. You've got to be carefully taught. And each woman would close by saying, if we can teach hate, surely we can teach love. And so that is the message of the Beloved Community Project, love. Back to you, Katie.
How do I follow that? Oh, my goodness. I just want to thank all of you. Thank y'all for being willing to do this collaborative evening. As Amy's already said, there are many art forms that we have shared tonight. Some people don't necessarily think as you're singing necessarily, or sharing a poem, or from South Pacific, from a play, from the many art forms that we have actually incorporated into this evening to articulate a message. And I think they help us understand and to enact change and perspective and change in our hearts. So I would just ask those that are still here, whatever your voice and your call to action is to make a better place in this world, to rid us of racism, discrimination, and injustice, figure out what that is for you personally. And it was an honor, and to restate what Pastor Davis said earlier, no lives matter unless Black lives matter.
Amen.
I would also like to say that there are questions that we haven't been able to answer tonight, and maybe some of you have more questions for are extraordinary change makers. And Katie, will you type up the email? If you'd like to reach out at Brolly at brawlyarts.org, we can forward the questions to any of the participants. If you're interested in the film and you'd like to find ways to screen it or host it or talk to us about it, please email us and reach out, because we would love to continue the conversation, because as we shared before, our art, culture, and humanities are the most non-threatening mediums we have to bring us all together and be able to address very important issues. And as we all know, race relations are difficult to discuss, but I think tonight we made a huge start. From the bottom of my heart, thank you, everybody. Thank you, Katie and NEHMA, for hosting us. It was a marvelous evening, and we hope to see you all soon.
Thank you. Good night.